Thanks, Heather. As she mentioned, I'm Deanna Weber with AECOM. We're a consultant working closely with LA County's CEO's office on the General Hospital feasibility study, and we'll be providing a brief update on our existing conditions analysis. Next slide. The team continues to study the existing conditions at General Hospital, including concepts such as daylight, horizontal and vertical circulation, seismic upgrades, and historic unique spaces. As you can see in the images there, we'll be talking more about daylight access. We'll be discussing horizontal and vertical circulation, how we move about the building with elevators and stairs. Our seismic retrofit improvements include structural upgrades, and the unique spaces, as you can see there in the orange color, are the historic spaces that we want to repurpose and reuse. And then in the lower right-hand corner, the green areas, improvements that need to be made on the historic General Hospital, including replacing the roof and other improvements. Next slide. As you know, General Hospital is a large building, and totaling, it's about 1.1 million square feet if you include the basement and the 19 floors. We're looking closely at each floor and the square footage and the arrangement on each floor to understand how best to reuse each space and each floor and how that works together in the reuse of the entire facility. Next slide. Each level of General Hospital is being studied to really consider a variety of different uses, including residential rental units, community service space, community serving retail, and various office types, including LA County type office space. So if you first just look at the top, you can see the 19th floor is predominantly mechanical, but then anywhere from the second all the way up to the 18th floors, just by the layout of the building itself, it lends itself to residential and potential office space, such as LA County type office space. We have a variety of different historic spaces that would be reused. And then the first two floors, first and second floors, these are most appropriate really for community support space, community serving retail, potentially office space, because they're most accessible to the public. And then also reusing the basement as parking, storage, and existing and proposed mechanical space. Next slide. We're also looking closely at daylight and access to natural light and air. In this image here, you can see that the colored areas are receiving the most daylight in this particular analysis, with green areas receiving the most daylight. Why that's important is when we look at those residential rental units, every single living space will have a window and every bedroom will also have a window. So as we lay out potential floor plans, we're looking closely at access to natural light, fresh air through the window system. Next slide. In addition, the team is analyzing a series of what we call circulation or access areas. We're blessed with over 18 elevator shafts that would be reused with new elevators. We also, that's in the red areas. We also have a series of existing stair and stairwells in the orange areas. We talked briefly already about the historical spaces. Here you can see on the first floor the historical lobby reuse in the blue. And then also there's a series of outdoor spaces. These are exterior spaces, and looking at really how we can reuse and repurpose the different existing facilities and spaces in the first floor, second floor, et cetera, in the reuse of General Hospital. Next slide. Here you can see a few conceptual residential rental unit layouts. We're exploring a variety of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedroom layouts. We're targeting in particular additional 3 bedrooms in response to what we've heard so far from the community input to make sure that we have units to respond to multi-generational and family needs. Here's just an example of what that looks like on anywhere from floors 5 to 9, 2 different layouts with 2 different concepts of different types of units. Next slide. So if there is any more, we're happy to take any questions that you have. For more information, you can go to the General Hospital Feasibility Study website that you see there. Join our mailing list to be sure to get project updates. We will be posting a number of videos as well. In our previous public at large meetings, we've posted already a series of PowerPoints and lots of information for you to get involved in the process. So I welcome any questions that you have now.
Thank you so much, Deanna. Does anyone have any questions about the information that was just shared about where AECOM is in the technical considerations of General Hospital as we start developing the scenarios for mixed use that will be presented to the Board of Supervisors?
Hi, just a question in the technicality of the timeline. Can you share more? I may have missed it at the beginning, but by when do you hope to share this feasibility study with the Board of Supervisors? Has that timeline also shifted because of COVID? Yeah,
sure, great question. And I'll respond to that first, and Kelly and Ivan may want to add more information, but we're certainly looking at seeing if there needs to be adjustments to the schedule at this point in time. You know, we had conceptually targeted our 4th community at large meeting, perhaps sometime in June, and another where we would share what we call our draft reuse scenarios. And then we would also be targeting, you know, later in the fall, our 5th community at large meeting, again, to share our proposed reuse scenarios. But we're certainly going to look at the schedule and see how that may need to adjust, as we're also looking at, you know, more online opportunities for engagement as well, such as meetings like today. So great question, and we'll certainly keep you updated in terms of the status of eventually, like Heather had said, that this study would go to the Board of Supervisors. Perhaps it's in the end of the year timeframe, but that may shift a bit.
Thank you. And to the extent that you are considering keeping the schedule going virtual to do so, Zoom has the capability of connecting with Facebook, and you can have a Facebook town hall. I think a lot of community is on Facebook, and it's proven helpful in the past. Just a tip.
That's a great tip. We really appreciate that, and you're right. We've used a number of platforms, including Zoom. So thanks for bringing that up and making that connection with Facebook. We appreciate that. And if anybody also has additional ideas on how we can further connect and engage with the larger community in the current circumstances that we're in, definitely, we welcome all those ideas. Thanks so much.
We have a raised hand from Yolanda, and after Yolanda, we have a raised hand from Greg. Yolanda?
Hi, Anna, real quick. Hi, Anna, sorry, really quick, can I follow on with what Deanna's comments were?
Yes, of course.
Sure.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Ivan Matthews. I'm the project manager working in the CEO's office for the General Hospital Feasibility Study. Appreciate everybody's time this morning with all the other commitments and uncertainty and everything else that's going on. I think we have about 50 participants, so that's fantastic. Deanna, thanks for a great presentation. And Pamela, thank you for your questions. We are, like Deanna mentioned, we are looking at having our next community, a large meeting in June, and then the next one in the fall with the final feasibility study submitted to the Board of Supervisors in November. We are talking with the supervisor's office on a weekly basis. We're in continual contact with the foundation and our community engagement team, and in fact had a long call yesterday with our community engagement steering committee to discuss different ways we can continue to outreach to our different community groups with today's current reality. We're going to continue brainstorming and figuring out additional ways we can maintain our community engagement. I'm really excited about our website being up because we can have updates that go to the website and have a more active social media presence. But I think as we continue to work through this all together and collaboratively, if we don't feel like we're able to successfully engage the community as much as we need to because of everything that's going on, then we'll look at potential extensions or other solutions. But we are working closely with the steering committee and our community engagement team, and any other ideas like Deanna mentioned that you guys have on how we can continue to increase our engagement. We'd love to hear them and love to figure them out together.
Okay, Yolanda, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Ivan, as part of that meeting yesterday, we talked about how that website could be a critical resource for the community that's trying to deal with the day-to-day things and still hold up our mission statement as being a resource for a thriving community. And so in that maybe they're not ready to hear so much about the progress of this particular plan, that we're cognizant of what our community needs, and we can be messaging that through our regular and trusted partners and trusted sites that the community turns to, such as LAUSD and the hospital and those kinds of sources. But I just wanted to comment on the also on the slide that showed the historic spots and the circulation, and looking at it was the one with several different viewpoints. Yeah, the one that had them all collectively shown. It was one of the first ones. Slide
2. Yeah. Keep going up. There you go.
That's an excellent resource, and your description of how you're going about it, that to me is something we should continue to keep in our outreach to the public, because it really does break it down into areas that they can grasp and that they can relate to. You know, we ask people to dream sometimes and to think outside the box, but this helps us to dream almost to a scope of realism, and you can start to envision, for those of us who are not in the everyday throes of engineering and building. You know, I think this was a good one. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Yolanda. We appreciate that feedback, and we'll continue to develop, graphics like this. Also, targeting West Campus as well for the next, meetings, to be able to explain the concepts of how we look creatively at General Hospital, but also look at what the building tells us it wants to be in the reuse scenarios.
Yeah, right on. And I think that even if the next few meetings are virtual, where we have, we talked about yesterday, outlays of networks to reach people maybe virtually, this is something that carries well into that mode. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Yolanda, thanks for also capturing a couple comments that were mentioned yesterday during the call with the Community Engagement Steering Committee. Kelly and I debriefed very quickly yesterday afternoon. She was on the call. I was actually on a call with our technical team talking about the feasibility study, but really appreciate your commitment and everybody else's commitment in helping guide us through this tenuous time, and totally agree with your points. And Rosa and Heather and I are going to be scheduling a call early next week to go over everything that was discussed to figure out how we can best support the community with the tools that we have available.
Great. Okay, Greg, would you like to ask your question?
Thanks. Yeah, I had a question about the residential unit layout slide. You mentioned that you're going through various iterations of potential floor plans. You had recognized that there was a need for more 3 bedrooms. I think that's great and really important. Do you have like sort of ballpark numbers about roughly how many units it seems like are going to be feasible? And obviously it'll depend on a lot of factors, but I'm just wondering if there's some ballpark numbers out there. And then also, given that this is an existing structure, will it be possible for all the new units to be sort of in line with the latest disability accessibility standards?
Yeah, great, Greg, thank you. Great question. So first, just to start on the ADA question, the American Disability Act, yes, we will, part of this process is to upgrade accessibility, including, using the existing elevator shafts, but new elevators, et cetera, to provide access to meet all the ADA requirements and to serve the broader community. So that's part of the process. Great question. And then as we move forward, and we'll have more information in terms of numbers of units when we get into the next scenarios, but some scenarios we're looking at would be predominantly residential. On those kinds of residential oriented scenarios, we might be in the maybe 600 to 650 unit range. And then there's some other scenarios too that we're exploring that may take a portion of the building and dedicate it more towards office space. For example, perhaps LA County type office space. For that, we're more in the probably 300 to 350 units range. But, it's a variety now, and it's a sliding spectrum. But also, Greg, what we're looking at is responding with increasing some additional 3-bedroom units on this project based on what we've heard so far from our community at large meetings, to be able to respond to family units and multi-generational units. So yeah, great question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. And also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ivan.
So Greg, good question. We are going to be going out to the community with that, I would say, with better range of numbers in the next couple months. We're working a lot of different scenarios, not only General Hospital, but West Campus also. And so when Deanna mentions those numbers, again, those are just potential unit ranges for in the General Hospital building itself. It doesn't include potential residential uses that we are also looking at and analyzing for West Campus in the different scenarios.
Got it. That's
Thanks, Ivan.
Yeah, so that's our pitch to you, Greg, and to all of you. We really want your participation in getting a great, strong participation and attendance at our next community at large meetings, because there'll be a lot more information about the scenarios presented at that time. So help us get the word out so we can share those models and those scenarios and ideas with the larger community.
It doesn't look like anyone has any other questions or comments in chat or with a raised hand.
Okay. Well, if that is the case, then I think we are ready to thank our presenters so much. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing with us this wonderful update on the considerations and where things are in the process of developing the feasibility scenarios.